uh, in the spring of 1983, I was in New York City, and a friend of mine came through the city who was a resident of Aspen, Willie Mosley, and said that the Aspen Community Theater was doing a presentation under the Hotel Jerome. I had, by that time, been out of Aspen about 2 years studying acting in New York and performing in off Broadway stuff there. And I had looked at this space under the Dome previously to going to New York and thought it would make a nice theater, and then Willie comes by and says that they're actually using it as a theater. And at this time in New York, I'd lost out on the part I wanted, so I said, well, I'll just go to Aspen and take the summer off and see what's happening theatrically there. Well, I got here, and they were doing Under Milkwood, which is a very good production, fit well into that space. And then the Aspen Community Theater, it was just kind of a one-shot basis. So I said, well, wait a minute, we should hold on to this space, because since I came to this town in 1975, one of the major problems of establishing a ongoing theater company here was that there was no space to perform. We would have to go to Pepke or the Given Institute to do a production, and the first use of those facilities was always for someone else's use. So we secured the space under the Hotel Jerome. That was in, I believe, July of 1983. We presented 3 one-act plays down there, 27 Wagonloads of Cotton by Tennessee Williams, Peter Shaffer's The Public Eye, and one other in which escapes me. Oh, Harold Pinter's Betrayal. And the program was very successful that summer, and so we proceeded on into the fall to do Lanford Wilson's 5th of July. And on it went right up until the present time, where about 3 or 4 months ago they renovated the Hotel Jerome, so we had to move to our present space in the Aspen Mine Company restaurant on the Hyman Street Mall. Since first coming here in 1975, I've been involved in local theater, resident theater here in Aspen since 1975. And those of us who were present at that time and working in theater in Aspen, mainly with Bob Neufeld and the Aspen Theater Project, and then a little later on Al Lyons' Aspen Actors Group, we never could have a consistent season because there wasn't a space to perform in. So now that we have a space to perform in, really the goal of this theater is to present a forum for the resident talent of the Roaring Fork Valley to perfect their craft in the theater arts. And we realize that in order for our theater to grow artistically, that we need to have visiting playwrights and actors and directors from various parts of the country to supplement and complement our efforts here. But I would like this to be a local, or rather resident, ensemble acting company where the people who are members and participants and workers in this theater live here. And hopefully on up the road, we do pay people salaries. At this point, it's not a lot of money. I think the actors made $100 a week last week for American Buffalo. But in the future, I would like the theater to grow artistically and financially to the extent that someone who wanted to support themselves as an actor in this town, there would be the financial capability of this theater to provide that kind of income for them, and to attract other actors from Denver, New York, Chicago, LA, who may be fed up with a big city urban type lifestyle, who still have a great love for theater and would be able to perform here, and so they would move here and become a part of the ensemble company. The types of plays that Theater Under the Dome does are basically the kind of plays I like. And being the artistic director of the theater, it's my responsibility and my tastes and preference that probably color and imbue the theater's play presentation agenda. American Buffalo is a very controversial play, and so there was a certain risk there, and we were moving from a situation where we were paying $450 a month rent into one where we had to pay $1,500 a month rent. with a very controversial show on our hands, um, especially in this town, oddly enough, because Aspen, although it has its elements of progressiveness and a certain liberal attitude here, there's also a very uh, defined conservative vein that runs through Aspen. And so even a lot of the local people, even a lot of the people who usually come to our theater were amazed, not amazed, but a little shocked that we would have a play like that in our theater that used foul language. Well, that's the kind of risk you have to assume if you're going to do theater that tries to speak to certain issues, social issues, emotional issues um, that are extant in our country today. And you can't do namby-pamby theater all the time, or else you'd be making Walt Disney films all the time. Uh, for the first time in our history, oddly enough, with and I say such a controversial play. It's not that controversial play in New York or Chicago or any other urban center. Both the Denver Post and the Rocky Mountain News reviewed this play, and our company got favorable reviews from both papers, and also from Westworld, which is an arts and entertainment magazine in Denver, came down and reviewed the play, and also gave it an excellent review. So um, we were gratified for that, and I'm gratified that we were able to pull it off, and we didn't lose our shirts financially.
I mean, do you notice a difference in an audience during the summer as opposed to the ski season or even off
Well,
season?
I've noticed audiences in the summer don't drink as much, Michael, is the first thing. Give me a real political hot potato, Michael.
Okay.
I think I think there's um probably major positive and negative aspects of trying to form a resident cultural organization or performing organization in Aspen, because the very things that make it attractive are the very things that distract you from your work. I mean, the beauty and the serenity and the kind of underlying laid-back lifestyle here is, in a way, although it's a positive energy and input into what you're doing, it can also distract you from what you're doing. And because we are rather insular here from the real world, then I think people are more apt not to want to see uh, the pimples and imperfections uh, that people in New York and Chicago, and again back to American Buffalo, that are quite familiar with, and realize that is a part and parcel of life, as well as beauty. There's an ugliness too that must be looked at, and so that is not here. And working as actors in my profession, I'm glad I've lived in New York, and I'm glad that uh, I'm still in touch with that environment, but I know I haven't been back there for 2 years, and I know that I have to go back there and spend some time there, both in New York and Chicago, urban centers, because there is a lot. They are they are the places where usually the seeds of um, artful expression of what the society is going through at the time begin to flourish. And I want that to happen also in Aspen, but it's a in, in an odd way, it's a harder fight here to do that. In the city, you have to fight just to stay alive, um, so you don't get hit over the head going down the street, let's say. But in Aspen, that's not so much of a problem. But it's staying in touch with those kind of exquisite, it sounds odd to say, almost life-threatening situations on one level or another that keep you in tune, that keep you sharp and sensitive to other human beings on the planet, Here you can lose. I heard one girl in the Aspen Times in an interview say, what about this thing going on with a hijacking? She says, what do I care? I'm in Aspen. It's that kind of thing that's dangerous, that I have to remind myself not to forget about that we're not just in Aspen, we're still part of the globe, and to bring as much of that globe as possible through theater into Aspen, so we don't forget.
I don't know how you can follow that.
Well, it's a dandy, wasn't it?